You know what I'll do is I'm going to start off with a story that I was thinking about anyway. It's interesting that Ellie brought up the door-to-door sales. Has anybody here done door-to-door sales? All right. So I will give you my door-to-door sales. I was a college student. I saw a sign one day in college that said, make a lot of money, work this summer, do something amazing, travel. All right, I can do that. I went to a meeting, and I met a guy there who was a Southerner from deep down Tennessee, big accent. Guy's name was Dave Price. And Dave Price said to me, he was there in a nice dark suit, gold tie. Dave, you want to make a lot of money this summer? You want to do something that's going to really reach deep down inside you? I was like, yeah, that sounds all right. You know what I mean? I'm up for anything. I went, this is it, right? Great, thank you. It was great. So I went at that point, basically the next week I boarded a bus, and I took a bus out to Nashville, Tennessee. Nashville, Tennessee in America is the Bible Belt, and this was inside of the heart of the Bible Belt. I was probably the only Jewish guy there, without a doubt. Obviously, no people of color, no Asians, anything. These guys were hardcore white Americans. And what their product was they had basically a set of encyclopedias. This is with Southwestern Publishing. This company's been doing this for years. They take about 5,000, so you know I have some pictures here. They take about 5,000 students every year. And they send them to other places in the country. So in other words, I was from the East Coast, they sent me to the West Coast. It's all thought out. If I'm on the West Coast, it's harder for me to just say, screw this, I'm going to go home, right? I'm stuck out on the West Coast. And we went door to door and sold these books. The thing about door-to-door sales is that it is not at all the bottom of the barrel. And for the door-to-door salespeople that have done it, door-to-door sales, I think, is like the rawest sales form possible. I mean, it is raw. It takes incredible guts to go again, door to door, talk to people. Our process was this. We had to first learn about the product we were selling, right? That makes sense. Then we went through lectures and lectures about it. What was amazing was you can see here, there's a little door, right? So all the time they'd have like graduates from the last year come up and they'd do a fake, knock on the door. Tuk, tuk, tuk. Hi, I'm the mom of the house. Hi, my name is Dave Hyman. I'm from Southwestern. Have you heard about me? And we do all these processes to learn about how to make the next stage in the sales process. We heard from industry experts. Industry experts were like insurance people, car salesmen, all right? Hardcore, raw salespeople. One thing, and this is what I'm going to talk about today, is about qualification. We definitely learned about how to profile a house. If you look at a house from the outside, you can see, are there bikes outside the house? Is there a gate? Are there balls? That lets me know what kind of student handbooks I'm going to be presenting, which lets me know how I should approach the house, right? Am I talking to them about issues with children's health, or am I talking to them about student handbooks to help with math, at what grade, et cetera? Working with the team. And this, for this company here in the Bible Belt, this was their Bible, the greatest salesman in the world. These are like 12 mantras that this guy puts up that it talks about how to get motivated, how to stay on top of your game, get excited about every day what you're doing. The process was they sent me over to California, from the East Coast to California, and I would literally walk and knock on about 250 doors a day. We did this 7 days a week for about 12 hours a day. I went there with, I think we were like 5 people. We got an apartment with 2 bedrooms, and it was just all about the revenue that we're going to make at the end of the summer. So we would really cruise house to house, knock on doors literally. As soon as we got what we call an open, okay, 250 knocks, you got to measure how many opens you're going to get. As soon as we got an open, you go into your shtick, right? How many, tell me about the family, this is what I'm doing. Other families, oh, it's just up the road with Mrs. Smith, XYZ. Sit down with the family and talk to them about our process. The crazy thing is that probably on average, our product was about $350, $400 an order. The family would then, on the spot, write me a check for $350, okay? This student who said that I'm from New York, right? I'm not even from California. Give me a check for $350. I deposit that in the bank, and then I'm going to come back a month and a half later and give you your merchandise. right? I mean, that's crazy, crazy, okay? I netted, okay, in the bank about $16,500, okay, in about 6 weeks of work, okay? And that's, I mean, what is it? It's about $60,000 of sales. Crazy. And what that's built on is that's built on trust. In the end, we rented these cars, rented Fiat Puntos, me and my little group. We grabbed our packages and we went back to the families and we kind of closed the circle. But what the big thing was that the company was teaching us was they were teaching us about finding the nuggets, right? Finding the important things about what it's going to be for this family that's going to make them go ahead and make that purchase and write me a check on the spot to me and deposit it. It still blows me away. Again, New York to Tennessee to the Bible Belt, and then back to California, and then headed home. What I learned from that, and I also have done sales my whole life, okay, from a young child to this, to phone sales, to everything, is I really feel that sales is a combination between an art and a science, right? We can break it down. It's a science because at Southwestern Publishing, how many knocks, how many opens, how many entrances, how many demos. Follow that funnel down and understand where you can improve. The art side is that if you do want to make the next step forward, you have to be able to work with the client. You have to be able to understand what does the client really want, right? What is going to be impressive for them, and what is their pain point that you can go after. I call this a lot of times with my teams, I call it the nuggets, right? What are the nuggets that you're going to find in that gold saga? So this, Avi showed another also a sales funnel. This would be like the Southwestern sales funnel, right, that we looked on. We had how many knocks, you can't really see it, how many knocks, how many opens, how many introductions, how many times I got an entrance into the actual house, how many demos, and how many closes. And you follow this down. So we would say to ourselves all the time, well, what can I control? How can I improve this process, right? So I can't improve like as far as if I'm going to knock on people's door and they're not there, I can't do anything. I can't break in and pull out that checkbook and write myself a check, right? But what I can do is I can improve how I'm talking to people. I can also improve how many knocks I'm going to make. If I did 250 knocks yesterday and it's a Saturday and a Sunday coming up, I got to hit 290, 300 knocks. Because I know the numbers are there. It's very clear. If I improve my number at the top of the funnel, I'm going to improve my number at the bottom of the funnel. The science and the art. I think also when everyone here, I would hope that everyone here also has a sales funnel that they're watching. This is the way that we do sales, right? Is we need to make sure that we're actually looking at the numbers and understanding exactly what percentage of a conversion we have for each stage in the process. But what's interesting is that we have qualification the whole time throughout the sales process, right? You have qualification from that first phone call. You're learning about what the customer needs, what are their pain points. And as that phone call continues, you're learning more and more. You set up the second call, the third call, all the time. Take down notes. What's important for them? What kind of questions are they asking when they're writing to you an email? Those are the things that you need to bring back and bring into your close, okay? Because that's what's going to win it. It reminds me, when I was selling the books, we also had this medical book that was there. And I think on my second day or something, I knocked on the door and this woman answered the door and she was coughing, right? And you could see that she was like physically not well, but she was just absolutely just in dreadful shape. So like first thing I pulled out was that medical book. You know what I mean? It wasn't about the kids' encyclopedia. It wasn't about the bikes that were outside. I went for the pain point that I knew was going to be most effective for her right there. What we learned from qualification is qualification is going to lead us down the whole path for how we're going to sell. So, Avi showed us that picture. He said, this is, in the end, we looked at that cartoon, and this is what you think you want to do, but this is actually what the customer wants to have in the end. You might have a picture that you speak to a client, and you say, oh, you're definitely going over this way. I know exactly what this client needs. And that is just the most rookie mistake at all. Take your time, listen to what the customer is speaking about. The customer is there because they want to learn from you, and they're going to, if you put it in the right way and if you ask the right questions, they're going to really spill out that whole sales process right in front of you. Okay, but it does take time, it takes tact, and it takes patience. Spin selling is coming up again. Okay, so if anybody doesn't have the book now, it's the second time we're referencing it. Why is qualification so important? Qualification is going to give you insight into your marketplace, right? To know who is in your marketplace, who are the competitors in your marketplace, what your clients might be looking for. It's going to give you the competitive knowledge to know what your competitors are selling, how they're selling. You can also yield out information about how your competitors are talking about your product, right? Don't be naive. Every one of you, when you're selling a product, your client is looking at a similar product, okay? And also, don't forget another thing, in SMB sales especially, your product might be competing with like a new espresso machine at the company, right? Most of the products that we're selling are really not vital must-have. There are alternatives out there. There's strong nice-to-haves. You want to sell it as a must-have. You want to find that nugget. But the CEO that's going to sign on that is also looking at an espresso machine. He's also looking at a fun day at the company, and he's saying, $20,000, you know, are we spending this money in the best way possible? You want to understand about how your solution navigates past any obstacles that the customer is going to come up. Understand what the decision maker's needs are. Empathize. Know what they're looking at. Most of all, you need to own the sales process. Okay? Don't be a friar. Don't sit and let the customer drive that forward. The customers now come to you because they are expecting that you are the expert. And in that being the expert, you need to drive them through that process. Let them know what you believe could be important for them and open up those discussions. Qualification questions. All right, so let me just jump onto this side a little bit. So I wrote up here a few qualification questions that are very general. When I was kind of brainstorming, I was thinking, like, what are qualification questions? What are people thinking of? So I wrote some down. I saw something that really came up again and again. You can see here, their pain, what does their company need? What are their needs? You guys, this is so important. You know, I think, again, as salespeople, typically we just stay within our own silo and we think we know what's best. Understand what they're doing. The biggest one is BANT, right? Everybody probably knows this. BANT, budget, authority, need, and timing. Make sure that you know this before you're going to even think about putting an offer on the table. Don't put an offer on the table if they know that the customer is only looking at a product that they need in another year. Okay, and right now I'm in the aviation space. Our sales cycle is about 1.5 years, and the timing is vital. Okay, I cannot at all discuss pricing until I know that the customer is really interested in taking a look at how our solution could help their business. Roles and profiles and qualification, okay? So what I do is I talk to a lot of people within the company when I'm selling, and each one of this person, I have to give them some kind of role, right? What are they doing for me? For example, a blocker is going to be somebody that doesn't have any intention for your product to move forward in the company. And generally this jerk, right? The real reason that they don't see any reason for your product, because your product is great. Right? And you're in touch with them because it's great, and they reached out to you because it's great, is because they're not getting any kind of personal value from your product. Maybe they're concerned that your product is going to take over their job. Maybe they're concerned they're not going to get any credit from your product, etc. A gatekeeper is going to be somebody that's going to block the decision maker, generally. You want to work with the gatekeeper, but get through them. Influencers, probably for me, it's my favorite, except for, you know, obviously this guy here. But in value sales, your influencer is going to be the person that's going to use your product, right? And they're going to really be the one that's going to be on the ground. They're going to get the biggest value. And if your influencer has strength, and if you build them up in the right way, they're going to bring that product up to the decision maker. And what I'll even do a lot of times before, and again on big enterprise sales, what I'll do is I'll even do like a mock call with the influencer before we get on the call with the decision maker. It's like next week I'm going out to an airline in Europe, and we have our champion over here, and he's going to introduce us to the decision maker, right? What are we doing this week? We're having a mock call with the champion about exactly what we're going to go through. I want them to feel not only part of it, but I want them to take responsibility. So if he's invested into this process, if it fails and the decision maker says no, it's kind of his fault. You know, it's not my fault, right? It's his fault because he didn't plan it correctly. And he's going to make sure that before he puts me in front of this guy, that everything is on key. Again, goes back to qualification, right? Qualifying from the beginning, knowing what's going to work out. Be careful about multiple decision makers, okay? Multiple decision makers are a fact of life. There's nobody that's buying a product right now that's making the decision themselves. Nobody. All the sales are multiple. So see here, on average, 5.4 individuals are involved in any B2B process, sales process. You have to know that there's something called a cliff that happens. When you get to more than 2 decision makers or more than 5 decision makers, your option for closing that sale drops every time. So you want to be able to identify who is your key decision maker and get in there as early as possible and work with that person. Make sure that you're on your side. Don't have too many cooks in the kitchen, is the explanation. Okay, qualification. So I am very meticulous about my qualification and how I record items down in my CRM, whether that be the HubSpot form or probably my preference is Salesforce. Very, very meticulous. Also with my team, extremely, extremely meticulous. So what I do is, for a couple things I just want to point out here that I think is important. One is I write down everything. Okay, I don't write down, 12 paragraphs what happened at the end of the call, but I write down key points because I want to go back to those qualification points all through my sales process, right? If I'm like 2 months later, I might want to go back to a point that somebody gave me 2 months earlier and throw it into an email. By the way, Bob, something came up that I thought might be of interest. I know it's of interest to him back here because he brought it up, right? But I'm not going to say 2 months ago you mentioned something, but I'm always going to drip that in. And I don't know if you're doing this in your sale, but in the end, when I put forth that proposal, that final business proposal, it says, this is our offer on the table, boom, I got everything laid out right here. The other thing that I like is for a CSM, for a customer service management or an account manager, et cetera, they also need to go back to this. So they now get this new customer, and they need to know what was important for this customer in that process. I put everything down. Also, for me, myself, I always make sure that my subject line, when I'm going to hit that task and it comes up in my, my daily reminder, I know exactly what they want. Okay, I know that this person wants to see more about how the conversion rate helped out, in my business right now, how it helped out drive more people from an online travel agency to buy the ticket online within the airline. I wrote down here a few tips for initial calls, okay, that were happening as far as qualification. One, I have no problem calling early. I definitely want to kind of roll up my sleeves, put on my sneakers, and get down on the ground with the customer and work with them. Your big-time decision makers are working like 10, 12 hours a day. Find out when you can reach them directly. Don't forget that the gatekeeper, right, the secretary, the gatekeeper, et cetera, they're working generally 9 to 6, 8 to 6, et cetera. Your decision maker is getting in early. I got no problem calling somebody on their cell phone, right? Definitely at 7:30, maybe 8 o'clock in the morning. Call somebody on their cell phone. Generally what you'll find is that if you have a customer that wants to buy, and that's part of the process, right, is weeding out the reals from the real people from the people that are just looking, they're going to take your calls and they're going to be fine with it. Keep it simple, okay, on a phone call. The worst thing you can do on a phone call is burn yourself for future phone calls. Okay, people don't have time, they're not interested. There still is that reality that people view you as a salesperson. They think all you want to do is move the sales forward, get your own commission, etc. Keep it simple and get right to the point. Focus on the challenges. We talked about this again. Find those nuggets that are most important for your customer and focus on how you can help them with that pain factor. Have a contingency plan, right? People are not going to answer the phone when you call. Know what your plan is. Are you going to leave a message or you're not going to leave a message? How are you going to follow up? For me personally, I got no problem leaving voicemail. I know most people don't like to listen to it, and maybe they don't, but I'll still leave a voicemail. I will always send an email afterwards. Hey, Bob, I just called earlier. You weren't there. Is there a better time to reach you? Can I reach you at 7 o'clock tonight? Can I reach you at 4 o'clock this afternoon? Also, something that I find is very, very effective is to ping people on LinkedIn, people that I'm already connected to, and say the same thing. I think people are probably feel a little bit kind of safer responding on LinkedIn than by doing email. And the last is make it personal, okay? Make sure that when you're making your calls, you're keeping it personal and on their level. A few tips for emails. Be assertive, okay? Always reply quickly. Show the customer that you care about their email was received. I get an email, and again, I'm getting big enterprise emails that I don't have the answers for exactly. They're a lot of times technical, much more technical for me, I should say. So before I'm going to answer it, I'm definitely going to write them back and say, hey, thanks a lot for your email. Let me check it out, and I'll get back to you later today. And I will make sure that I'm back to them later on today. But just put yourself in their role. We're salespeople. I can't stand when I send an email out and I get no reply, right? Did the guy see it? Did it not? Was it spammed out? Does he give a shit? I don't know, but this way at least I'm getting across, and I'm also selling them, this is the way that I'm going to work with you as a client. Emails, keep them short. I think everybody knows that. Active voice, okay? This is also something I see a lot in Israel. Okay, so a lot of times people take a passive voice, right? So they're going to say, I'd really appreciate, your feedback would be appreciated from this letter, or, that instead just be more direct. I would appreciate your feedback. What's your feedback on this, Bob? How do you feel about this? Instead of saying, your request was received by our team, I'm interested. Boom, we received your request. Get right down to the point, especially for Americans, but be much more direct about it. Draw a response. Okay, don't send an email that says, please let me know when I can reach you. I'm going to get an email like that, and I'm going to say, great, I don't know, never, I don't know. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say to them, can I reach you at this time? I guarantee that this is going to still only cut you back by about 50%. It's not going to get you the answer, but it is going to be a little bit more direct. It's going to, again, roll up your sleeves, get down on the ground with the customer. And the last one is update your CRM, right? Update it all the time and put in your tasks. Okay, a few books here that I mentioned. It's also, this Greatest Salesman in the World is a fun book. It's about not being frustrated as a salesperson. Keep yourself motivated. On those times that you're feeling like you're crap, you're not selling anything, read this. It'll give you great motivation. Sales Acceleration Formula. Has anybody read this? Yeah. Exactly. So this book is a great book. Excellent. It breaks down the process exactly how you should sell. It's definitely looks forward. We looked at sales, numbers, and art, science and art. This is more the science, and this is more the art. I want to bring up, Avi said, yeah, I wanted to bring you up, Avi, earlier. We talked about, I was gonna bring you up earlier. We talked about also with qualification. I mean, Avi, I used to sit with Avi, and we'd look at an account, and we would sit there for 20 minutes, 30 minutes in a room. Avi likes to write all over the walls, all over, and just hammer away and talk about what is the next step. What does this customer definitely want? What are the nuggets that are going to make it for this customer? What have we learned? And it's going to be that process of going over things again and again. Do I have time for a 1-minute story? 1-minute story. All right. So this guy is a trip, right? This guy, I remembered him because of the Southwestern, the sales books. And this guy's an old school sales guy. An old Southerner, a Baptist, an insurance salesman. In the books, he was the Prudential Salesman of the Year, etc. He told this story that I definitely aligned with as far as sales and keeping the right attitude. So it went like this. There was a couple that had twins, 2 boys. And these boys were born a minute and a half from each other. And they grew up. And as they grew, the parents started to notice that one of the kids was negative. You know what I mean? I don't want to get up in the morning. And what is this to eat? And I don't want to wear this. And the other boy was happy-go-lucky. You know what I mean? Everything was light and easy and flow with him and this and that. So they were in kindergarten, about to go into 1st grade. And the parents thought this is just the weirdest thing. Here our kids are getting ready to take the next step. They went and they talked to a therapist. And they said, is it odd that the kids, is this normal, that the kids are so different? That even though they're twins, I don't know, do they have any kind of relation? What? So the therapist said, well, bring them in. Let's talk to the kids. So they bring them in, and they go to the therapist's room, and he says, you know what? I don't even want to sit in the room. I actually prepared an exercise for them today. So he says, takes the first kid, the negative kid. He says to him, come with me. And he walks him down the hall. And walks in the hall, walks in a room, and in the room is all these toys. I mean, it was like a kid's haven, right? It had toys, it had candy, it had lollipops, it had dolls, it had everything that a kid would want. And the therapist said, listen, you play here. I got to talk to your parents for about 20 minutes. Play here. I'll be back. I'll be back in 20 minutes, and we'll check things out. I just need a little bit of time. Close the door. He walks back to the conference room, takes the second kid, goes to the other end of the hall. And he says to the kid, we're going to go in the room now, and I'm going to go in. He opens up the door to the room. The smell comes out. I mean, shit. Walks in the room. There is a pile of horse shit, right? Like this high, okay? Big pile, smelly, Horrible. And the kid looks at him, and the guy goes, listen, I got to talk to your parents for like 20 minutes. You stay here and play for about 20 minutes, and I'll come back. He shuts the door, leaves the kid in there. He goes back and talks to the parents. They have a cup of coffee. And 20 minutes later, he goes over to the first kid, the grumpy kid, right? And he opens up the door to this room, this Fantasia room. And the kid is sitting there angry, sitting in the middle. Nothing's been touched. So he goes, what happened? Why didn't you play with any of the toys? The kid says, I didn't want to. So he goes, well, what about, these trains? Don't you want to play with the trains? He goes, well, the trains, they might make a train wreck, and I might hit my knee. I might get hurt. He goes, oh, okay, all right. Well, what about the lollipops? You wanted to eat the lollipops? Nah, they're going to hurt my teeth. I can't stand it. I get a pain in my tooth. He goes, all right, well, what about the dolls? He goes, well, if I pull the hair out of one of the dolls, it might bang up and hit me in the eye. I don't want that. All right, so you got the picture. He goes back and he goes over the other room, right? The room with the horse shit, right? And he goes in, and there's horse shit all over the place, right? Like on the ceilings. The kid is covered all over the ceilings, over the floor. And he goes, the kid, what happened here? And the kid goes, well, where there's horse shit, there's got to be ponies, right? I'm digging for ponies, all right? So this is it. We're in horse shit a lot of times. We're salespeople. We got to trudge through it, and we got to find where those nuggets are and where those ponies are. That's it for me. I'm here through the end.